Hi friends, I am back with another review, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I have received a lot of questions in the past or kind of snarky little comments about doing reviews about characters that I'm not that into. So quickly I'm just going to cover why I do that, and then I'm going to go ahead and cover two characters I'm not really into. So the reason I do is because what I'm into for this channel specifically really is the toy collecting. I really enjoy the figures, and I think that there's so much you can do with the figures that you don't necessarily need to be an invested fan in, and I think some of these toys are of a really great quality, and it's worthwhile to let people know about the ones that are great, even if you're not necessarily a fan of the character. Secondly, when I'm working on a Build-a-Fig, as is the case with the two figures I'm talking about today, I am often introduced to characters that I become interested in by playing with the toys and looking at the investment, and then hearing the comments from people who maybe are a little bit frustrated that I don't know about one of their favorite characters. As I've told you guys in the past, I started this whole endeavor as a comic book collector and avid reader, and it's always really exciting to me when I have something that can draw me into a new character. And that actually happened with these figures today too, at least one of them I'm super interested in knowing more about. So I think that's really what I wanted to cover as far as why I do figures that I may not know that much about. I really enjoy and am intrigued by the BAF building process, and a lot of times that just means I end up with some characters I didn't know before. Sometimes I'm not going to really look into them that deeply, like for instance the Black Knight, I think is the name of the character, I don't really care about. But Malekith, on the other hand, I didn't think I was going to care about, and I thought it was a silly looking figure, and now I'm completely obsessed with him, and he's bringing me into Thor a lot more, which I'm loving. So it's just been a really great experience. And right now in our isolation, you know, as quarantine is maybe possibly wrapping up, or maybe we're just getting more used to it, having something new to read and learn about is always a great thing. So with all that said, I'm going to do the final two Abomination BAF figures that I have in hand. I have 3 more on pre-order, and they'll be here next month. As we all know, thus far I have not been very impressed with these figures, unfortunately. That is kind of the case with the two I'm going to talk about today, but at the very, very minimum, one of them has definitely drawn me into wanting to know more about the characters. So I'll start with him, and that is Mar-Vell's leader. So what I really love about this figure is not being a fan right off the bat, not knowing about him when I purchased this figure, is the infinite possibilities for photography that a character with this particular feature has. So his big bulbous green head is obviously great for a lot of things. Of course, when I decided to do this video, I went ahead and looked into his origin as a part of more of the Hulk universe, and he got his powers through gamma radiation like the Hulk did. And I think it was really interesting, the way that I gathered it at least, that his power is not necessarily as much super intelligence as it is the ability to gather and retain information quickly. So as he realizes that he can do this, he reads a ton of books and sort of gathers as much information as he can, which is probably why a lot of his endeavors fail, because he can get the information, but then he's not necessarily got the genius capacity to figure out how to use it. At least that's what I gather from the background that I read on the Mar-Vell website, and I'm definitely interested in knowing more about this character. So the leader is the one that I want to learn more about. The figure is disappointing. This line has been frustrating really from jump, and this one is particularly frustrating for me. Now, while I know that leader, his strength, we get that his strength is in his mind and not his body, the way that this body is put together is frustrating. First of all, let's look at another Mar-Vell figure with a man's body. So here's the Black Knight I was just talking about a moment ago. Let's look at the thighs and the legs in particular. This is like the armored, you know, armored body, but you get the idea from the shape of the legs. These are like delicate. They are right in between the legs that go on lady figures and somewhere, like I don't really know what's going on here. And this teeny tiny pelvis, which feels like is from a lady's figure, quite frankly, with narrow, almost no hips at all. Now, again, I said I know that he's not like a physical character, but this is not a man's body, and it's off-putting. It looks strange. It's very strange. The flexibility is great. The points of articulation are great. I think the feet are very strange looking. His like banana shoes going on here, I don't like that. His really delicate ankles, and this very slim sort of teen upper body. I don't know. It just looks odd to me. More than odd. It's off-putting. I don't like the way that the body looks. That said, the points of articulation are on. They're really smooth. The head moves all the way around. We get this all the time with the male figures, and like I've talked about, not the female figures, like when I did Ms. Mar-Vell, we're not getting great articulation, but in the male characters, that is not an issue. Elbows bend all the way that they should. Knees bend all the way at both joints the way that they should. Ankles, thighs. We get great bending in the chest, forward, backward, and turning in the waist. So the articulation is great on this, but the body is so off-putting to me. The facial sculpt is a little, it's good, it's sinister. You know, yeah, it's good. It's sinister enough for what he is supposed to be, but I literally just hate this body. I can't think of anything positive to say about it other than that the points of articulation are on. So, man, yeah, another disappointing figure. I'm going to show you the parts of the Abomination that I have so far. I have 3 more parts to get. I have a right arm, a left leg, and a head coming up. But I'll show you that, again, the Abomination figure is making up for these for me, but Leader was disappointing. But when I did read his backstory, it's a character that I'm going to be learning more about. So at least I got that out of it. The second one is Mar-Vell, and I thought that Mar-Vell's story was really interesting. Being a Kree who was the only white-skinned Kree, or one of few white-skinned Krees on his planet, where everybody is blue, they sort of explored some topics in racism, which I thought was interesting. That he took sort of a philanthropic interest in, let's see, we'll get this focused real quick. Earth, there we go. That he took a philanthropic interest in Earth and wanted to help and be a hero for humans, I think is really interesting. And then there are the connections, obviously, to Captain Mar-Vell down the road. I thought it was kind of interesting that they made this a female character in the films. That's sort of a trend that's going on. I don't really care to explore thoughts one way or the other on that, but I did think it was kind of an interesting choice, especially since I think that the issues that were already written into the character as far as his race are far more interesting than changing the gender. But this figure, while it's a little bit better, also is still very small. His body is very small. This one has strange audible snap clicking. Can you hear that? Which I tested some other figures. None of my other figures have that. I think that's weird. I don't know why it has that. Neither of these figures came with accessories, so I don't understand why he has this huge hole in his back. That, again, is just making the figure seem cobbled together to me, which is why I think his body looks strange, this weird little body. Again, I've got these loud, audible clicks in all of the joints when I'm moving him. His legs, not because of his calves. It should be because of his calves, I guess, if they're not going to bend. But that's not the that's not what's holding it up. The calf isn't touching the leg, so I'm not getting the full 2 bends in the legs like I was in Leader. The elbows are all right. He's a little bit more muscular, so it doesn't go quite as far, but I'm not unhappy with that. The clicking is just strange to me. I just don't understand why it's doing that. Again, it just feels like the head is a little bit loose and wobbly, but it turns, let's see, I don't know why I'm having so much trouble focusing today. But it does turn and move every which direction, so that's nice. But, and actually, you know, I really like the paint job on his hair. I don't notice a lot of depth when in the Marvel Legends figures when they're painting hair, that there are a lot of high and low lights. So I appreciate that that seems like one additional effort they took in making this figure, the only additional effort. Everything about this feels cheaply made. It feels cheaply put together. While overall it is an attractive figure that might photograph well, and I guess I can say that generally about Leader as well. I mean, even just look at this. Look at how loose and just poorly executed this figure is. We don't even have that with this top head heavy character. He just flip-flops back and forth. These are disappointing, and the inconsistency in Hasbro's Marvel Legends lines has frustrated me in the past. It is really frustrating me with this particular build. I don't like it. I didn't like it with Ms. Marvel, one of my favorite characters, and I don't like it with these characters that I'm not that familiar with. And I would really like people who are fans of Leader and Mar-Vell to chime in and tell me, do you feel like these figures stand up to the character that you know and love? I want to know more about Leader. Mar-Vell is kind of interesting to me, but as you guys know, also with Captain America, with Captain Marvel, these sort of like very, to me at least, all good, all American sort of generic type of superheroes typically don't interest me that much. There are some interesting elements to Mar-Vell that I want to look into, but if you guys have recommendations of places for me to start with either of these characters, I'm totally down and interested in doing that. So finally, I'm going to show you Abomination, how he's coming together, and I'm happy with this. I'm hoping that when all is said and done, that this will really make it all worth it. I think this is good looking. It's so gigantic. That pleases me. The details in his skin are gorgeous. I love that the spikes are soft. I love really everything about this. I love so far. So I am very hopeful that the final 3 pieces will make this a figure that I'm happy to have in spite of problems with other characters. I literally might just use these to practice my first customizations. That's how little they are coming to mean to me. But my Mach 1, my Mar-Vell Rage, and my Iron Man are on pre-order and should be here next month. Those are arguably 3 of the figures that I'm most excited about, so hopefully they live up to the standard. If you've watched my videos in the past, you know that my last Iron Man was very disappointing to me, so I'm really hoping that I get a good Iron Man that I want in my collection, because who doesn't love Iron Man? I do think that the Abomination is going to come out, and again, when you're looking dollar for dollar, ending up with a huge figure that I'm happy with like this still makes getting some figures that I'm not happy with value. So that is my story today about these 2 figures that I'm not that typically into, these 2 characters that I'm not that into, ending up being 2 figures I'm not into. Please share your thoughts. Let me know what I should read to do with the Leader. Let me know what I should read to do with Mar-Vell. As fans of those characters, let me know what you think of these figures and of my review. I thank you guys so much for watching, and I've got an entire run of figures coming up. I have a full bath complete and ready to go, and those videos will be coming up in the coming days. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a great day. Bye.